It's hot out there, y'all. It has been about 105 degrees consistently here every day in the desert, which means I need to be strategic about what foundation I use. In this video, I'm gonna be testing 4 drugstore foundations, see how they do against heat and sweat, and determine which are the best drugstore foundations for summer. If you're new here, hi, my name is Miranda. Welcome to my channel where we talk all things budget beauty. If that sounds interesting to you, then become the newest member of the Slashed Squad by hitting subscribe and the bell icon. The 4 foundations I chose for this test are already up there as some of the best you can buy at the drugstore. So over the last couple days, I've been wearing them side by side to test their performance. So let's roll it back to day 1. It's day 1 of this summer foundation test. Let's see what holds up the best. On one side of my face today, I'm gonna be applying the Covergirl Outlast Active Foundation. This foundation is supposed to be sweat-proof, transfer-proof, and humidity-proof for up to 24 hours, lasting all day. It's not supposed to clog your pores, and it does have a broad spectrum SPF 20. And on the other side of my face today, we'll be testing the Covergirl True Blend Matte Made Foundation. This is a matte foundation that's supposed to stay super comfortable for up to 12 hours of wear, and it's not supposed to feel dry or look cakey at all. I did review this foundation when it first came out. I will leave the link to that video below, but I'm very curious to see how these foundations do side by side. Let's start with the Outlast Active Foundation. So I will apologize in advance for the color match, which will probably be super off because I was just guessing by online pictures. Also, when I ordered these, it was before I was spending a lot of time outside, so my shade is already very different. Now, I'm not using a primer under these. I'm just seeing how the foundation lasts on its own, but I did prep my skin with toner, serum, and moisturizer. So just as a first impression of this Outlast Active Foundation, I'm getting a really nice even coverage, and it feels very lightweight. And the shade doesn't seem to be too far off. Now, what I find interesting is that this doesn't necessarily say that it has a matte finish. So if it stays looking as natural as it does right now, there's still a little bit of a radiance there. I'm really curious to see how shiny I would get throughout the day. All right, this side we're going in with the True Blend Matte Made Foundation. I'm gonna try mixing these 2 shades, M10 and M15, because M10 looked really yellow and M15 looked really pink. But I'm not expecting these 2 sides to match exactly. Maybe. Oh, that's not bad. Now this has amazing coverage. I mean, you saw I actually had a leftover hive from the weekend because I'm slightly allergic to shrimp, and only sometimes do I actually get a reaction when I eat it, and this weekend was one of those times. So that redness is almost completely covered. You can kind of see a little bit of that discoloration come through, but overall, really nice coverage. Now this is also making my skin look so smooth. All right, both foundations are dried down now. I'm gonna bring you in even closer so you can see the finish. First of all, I did an amazing job color matching both of these sides, let me just say. Now the matte made side looks slightly smoother. I feel like my pores are more blurred on this side. However, something that I notice with a lot of matte CoverGirl foundations is after it dries down, I end up with some like little white dots on my face, which I believe are like the oil absorbing particles in the foundation. It's so bizarre. I always see them in CoverGirl matte foundations, but you can kind of just brush them off and then it's fine. So loving the finish on the True Blend Matte Made side. Now, I also absolutely love how the Outlast Active side looks. It dried down to be nearly matte, but there is still a natural radiance to it. I am interested to see if that ends up making me shinier on this side throughout the day. I will be putting on a little bit more makeup today in terms of like blush and bronzer because I'm working on other things, but I will keep it relatively natural so we can really see how the foundation does. So I'll check in with you in a few. Here with a midday update for you. I just came inside from going to get my mail. It is 105 degrees today, and just being out for like 8 minutes has me schwitzing. I definitely feel like I look a lot sweatier on the CoverGirl Outlast Active side than I do the True Blend Matte Made side. I'm definitely getting shiny over here, but it's not as like wet as my right side. But I mean, overall, I just need some air conditioning in my life because holy cow. It's now the end of the day. I've been wearing this foundation for a solid 8 hours now, and I am sweating again because I just got home from running errands. Now, while I am feeling a bit sweaty, I want to do a transfer test on toilet paper. So this side is the Covergirl Outlast Active. Seeing just a tiny bit, really not that much at all, actually. Just a slight tint. Let's check out the True Blend Matte Made side. This side just feels a little less slick. Pretty similar, right? You be the judge, maybe slightly less on this side. Now, as far as my end of day appearance with these foundations, I feel like they performed very, very similarly and both very well. Even as I got really sweaty throughout the day, my foundation doesn't look disturbed. There's no splotchiness. There's no obvious breakdown spots. You can see maybe a tiny bit of redness coming through on both sides under my nose, but that is a very common area for me for foundation to fade. And I'd say the coverage held up pretty well on both sides. Obviously, I had that big red splotch right here, which is still covered relatively well. I think the main difference to consider when choosing one of these foundations over the other is if you do want to remain a little bit more matte throughout the day, in which case the True Blend Matte Made foundation is going to be the better option. But these both knocked it out of the park on a 104-degree desert summer day. All right, I'll see you tomorrow with the next side-by-side test. It's day 2 of this summer foundation wear test. My hive is going down. I'm feeling good. Let's get into it. Today I'm putting 2 foundations to the test that are arguably the best at the drugstore, at least according to their reviews. On one side, I'll be using the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. Y'all probably know all about this, but in case you don't, this is a matte foundation that stays feeling flexible on the skin, so it's pretty comfortable. It's long wearing, up to 24 hours, and I've actually been wearing this a lot recently because it performs really well under face masks. And if you haven't seen my drugstore face mask makeup routine, definitely check that out. And on the other side, I'll be wearing the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation. Now, this is probably my favorite drugstore foundation, hands down. Even though this is not a matte foundation, it gives you more of a natural finish. It is waterproof, sweat resistant, and transfer resistant. This one also has SPF 25, which I love for summer days. Okay, going in with the Pro Matte Foundation first on my left, your right. This foundation gives me such amazing coverage. And for a matte, it definitely feels comfortable and it doesn't look cakey or crackly. Even on my combo skin where I do have dry areas, it doesn't necessarily accentuate them, although sometimes I'll see my fine lines on my forehead just a little more pronounced. See, one layer and there's so much coverage going on. All right, going in on this side with the Fresh Wear. Now this has equally impressive coverage, and I do prefer this type of finish with most of my foundations where it's not dewy, but it's still radiant. It just gives a little bit more of a natural appearance. And again, I prepped both sides with toner, serum, and moisturizer, but not any particular primer. But foundations like these are the reason I don't often wear face primer, because they do so well without it. It's just, why do an extra step? Now, with both of these foundations being from the same general product line, they're both Infallible foundations, they look very similar besides the finish. My pores are smoothed out very well on both sides. As I mentioned earlier, one very slight difference that I see between the two is that on the matte side, my fine lines are just slightly more pronounced on my forehead. But other than that, 2 gorgeous foundations that look so beautiful on the skin. My brows don't want to cooperate today. But I will be wearing a little bit more makeup today, just like yesterday, and I will check back in with you in a few. I'm already feeling hot. It's the end of the day. I didn't do a midday update today because I didn't leave the house until the very late afternoon. So this is me freshly back from running errands, and it was 101 degrees today. I am slightly sweaty right now, so let's do the toilet paper test. First, the Pro Matte side. Okay, so we did pick up a little bit of color. Let's check out the Fresh Wear side, and this is supposed to be a transfer resistant foundation. Okay, actually, I do think that it's slightly less than the Pro Matte foundation. Here they are side by side, and I am actually seeing less transfer from the Fresh Wear foundation. Now, something else that I noticed, and you have to really look close to see it, so I hope it translates on camera. I did see some foundation breakdown on the Pro Matte side around my forehead. You can kind of see it right about here where the foundation does look a bit splotchy. In this area, it does look like it's broken down just a bit. There is also breakdown around my nostril, and surprisingly on the Fresh Wear side, even though I can see some fading, overall it just doesn't look as splotchy. You tell me if you see what I'm seeing. You can also see that the Pro Matte broke up a little bit in my laugh line, but on the Fresh Wear side, it's looking real good. And you can see my sweat coming through on both sides. I just think the beads of sweat look a little bit smaller on the Pro Matte side than on the Fresh Wear side. So this one comes as a little bit of a surprise, but I do think that the Infallible Fresh Wear foundation handled sweat a little better than the Infallible Pro Matte foundation. Pretty interesting results, am I right? So you can come to your own conclusions, but I want to rank the foundations that I tested based on their performance over the past couple days. Coming in at number 4, I'm giving the slot to the Covergirl Outlast Active Foundation. Even though the foundation looked really good at the end of the day, despite sweating profusely, when I was sweating, I looked slick. So there is absolutely no type of oil control with this foundation, which I do think that some people, including myself, prefer just a little bit during summer. For the number 3 spot, I'm giving it to the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation. The only reason being that I did see it breaking up just a little bit around my fine lines. Number 2, a very solid choice, the Covergirl True Blend Matte Made Foundation. This looked so smooth at the end of the day despite getting so sweaty, and it really helped minimize the appearance of sweating. It did a great job at combating oil and shine, which of course leaves us with the L'Oreal Infallible Fresh Wear Foundation as number 1. This was a little bit of a surprise to me, to be honest, because when I think of a summer foundation, my mind immediately goes to a matte foundation. But this one ended up being the most transfer proof out of all of them while staying gorgeous throughout sweating. It almost like refreshed itself as I sweat. Plus the fact that it has SPF does make me feel really good for wearing it out in the summertime. And overall, it's just a really dang beautiful foundation. What's your favorite drugstore foundation for summer? Whether you like it because it feels lightweight or it's super transfer proof, let me know in the comments below. Today's shout out goes to Jen. Thanks for being a member of the Slashed Squad. And join me over in this video next where I share my drugstore glowy makeup routine for summer. I'll see you over there. Bye!